Okay, I'm gonna show you my new method making bread. It's a little bit different from before because now what I do is I add some olive oil to the mix. It makes it so much easier. No cleaning, no extra flour for kneading or shaping or anything like that. So what you need is a couple of bowls. You can do it with one, but it's better with two. Some wooden spoon, some yeast, because I'm going to do the yeast version today, but you can also do it with the starter. And some good sea salt. And I like to use a scale, of course, to get better measurement. And I use some filtered water, some honey, and some flour. Basically what you need. The honey is just because of my taste, and my wife's taste, but otherwise you don't really need that either. So you don't want to mix the salt and the yeast. So what I'll do, I'll put the water first to warm up, to be lukewarm instead of just cold. And I put 472 grams of water, filtered water. So what I do is I put it in the microwave for 2 minutes. My microwave is very slow, so it makes it kind of lukewarm. And so we'll wait a couple of minutes. In the meantime, I could put in the bowl that I will mix the water with, I could put maybe one little teaspoon of yeast. So first you put the yeast, I put it back in the fridge, keep it fresh. And then the water is now lukewarm. And again, that's filtered water. And I'm adding that water to the yeast. I could also add it to the starter if I decided to make a sourdough bread. So then I like to mix it with a wooden spoon until it dissolves. It becomes kind of white. This time I rinse my egg and I add a little bit of honey to the mix. And dissolve that. And when the honey is dissolved, I'm going to add maybe a quarter cup of olive oil. I don't really measure it, but what that does, it makes the dough not stick to the counter or my hands or anything like that, and it just really makes it a lot easier. So when that is mixed, then we can prepare the flour. And the flour we're going to wait also what we're going to use. So that's when we're going to mix also the salt with the flour, because you don't want to mix the salt with the yeast because they kind of cancel each other. So what I like to do is you could use regular all-purpose flour that is less gluten than the bread flour. And what I do, you can mix whatever you would like as far as flour, but for this example, I'm just going to use regular all-purpose flour. And I'm gonna mix, they're both the same. I'm gonna mix a total of 720, oh no, 800, we'll do 800 for this one. 800 grams of flour. So 6, 7, 8. Then at this point, I'm gonna add the salt to the flour. And I like to use 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Then I don't need my scale anymore. I mixed it well, the flour and the salt. And I'm going to add that to my liquid mixture. Basically that'll be it. Alright. I'm gonna mix until all the ingredients, all the water is absorbed. And I like to use a wooden spoon. You could use one of those whisk for the dough. That works as well. But I just like the wooden spoon. You mix that gently so it doesn't fly everywhere. So you get everything kind of combined. And again, the olive oil is going to make it very easy because it's not going to want to stick to the bowl or the spoon or further down on the counter when you shape it. And you can do all the little kneading that we're going to do in the bowl. So you don't have to put it on the counter with flour and making a mess. And that's the part that I enjoy. The taste doesn't seem to be affected by the olive oil. You can try different amount and see how you like it, but to me it makes it a lot easier. Alright, so already almost combined. What we're going to do, combine it well, and we're going to cover it and let it stand for about 15 minutes. And then we'll do a little bit of kneading in the bowl, and then we'll cover it again and let it rise for about 4 to 6 to 12 hours. And on the counter. And then we'll shape it, wait again, and then we'll bake it. So it's the first and most important part that we've almost already done. Nicely mixed, nicely in the flour, and see how the flour on the side just doesn't stick next to the olive oil. It makes the cleaning later on and every step so much easier. I wanted to do that video to show you. I think that's a big improvement to my previous recipe tutorial on making dough. Cover this up and wait 15 minutes. In the meantime that we're waiting for the dough to combine well, we can clean our mat. And again, we want to try to avoid putting any flour and water inside the sink because it's just want to tend to clog your sink. So what I do is I remove as much dough as I can with a paper towel, throw it away. This way I don't want to clog my sink, because that's not fun. Clean the bowl that I use for the flour. And now you don't need anything else really, because we can do our kneading inside the bowl without any flour. Which really makes it nice and easy. Okay, I think it's been about 15 minutes. Yeah, it's about to rain. Yeah. So we turn this off. So what I like to do for the first and only kneading we're going to do is to put some gloves on. You don't have to, but it just makes it easier to me. Less cleaning, less stuck to the hands and counter, and then to use a spatula to get the dough. But again, this is all, it's not mandatory, you don't really need that, it just makes it easier. I see the dough already combined it a little better, and I can knit it in the bowl without using flour, and it doesn't stick to anything, to the gloves. That's about the only kneading we're going to be doing until we shape it in about either between 4, 6, 12, 24 hours if we want. But we don't really need to do more kneading than that. So I'm going to cover this for again between 4 and whatever else we want. And then we'll be ready to shape either our boule or baguette or whatever we decide to do. Okay, so now we're going to shape. It's been about 5.5 hours, and it's more than enough to start shaping our bread. The dough that we had rose nicely, kind of doubled its size, and now we're ready to punch it down. So for that, we're going to make bread today in those rectangular shaped little cakes, okay? And then we're going to press our dough down. You don't have to put it on the counter or anything like that. I mean, using flour, that's a nice thing again that I like. So we push it down. Take it out of the bowl. Put it on the counter. And see how clean the bowl is. You don't really need much to clean it up. It's fully clean. So now that we punch it down, what we're going to do is fold it into itself like this, like a cylinder. And two loaves, I'm cutting it in half. fold it also into itself 3 times. Kind of like a big baguette. Fold it. And put it in our tray. Do the same this one. No flour. Alright. Also for our shaping, we're going to cover those for about an hour and a half. The counter like this. And then we'll bake it. Voila. Okay, so now it's been over an hour and 10-15 minutes. So this went up enough. Not really, but maybe it should work out. It's a little cold today, so the bread didn't go up as much as it usually does. But it's ready to put the oven and wait another 15-20 minutes for the oven to reach the temperature of 450. For baking. So we're gonna go to 450 here and wait for the oven to warm up. And we have a pan here where we're gonna throw some hot water. It's gonna create some steam at the time that we're gonna need it for baking. Now what we can also do is scribe or score the bread. So I'm going to do one score. What that does is going to actually open up at that place where I want it to instead of on the side or underneath. So this is the scoring. Oh, that is done. So now we wait for the oven to reach the temperature of 450 to preheat. And then we'll bake that for 25, 27, 30 minutes, depending how you like it. Some ovens are, different from others, so you have to practice until you get the right amount. For me, it's about 27 minutes. So let's wait about 15 minutes for the oven, and then we'll bake it. Okay. So it's been 15 minutes and my oven is reached for 450. So we're ready to bake. So I also warmed up some water. You can do it with cold water, but it seems to work better with hot water. And to create a little bit more steam as we're gonna after we put the bread in. So I have my hot water and a pan to put the water in. And now I'm going to put the 2 loaves in the oven. And add some hot water into the pan to create some steam. It's going to help to rise the bread and also give it a nice crust on the top. And now there's not much to do until it cooks and bakes, and that takes about 27 minutes. Okay, it's been 27 minutes. So we'll take our bread out of the oven. Put our mittens because it's going to be hot. You don't want to get burned. So that noise to make sure it's nice and cooked. That's fine. I can just get out of my hot water. take those out, or actually they can cool off in the tray, the loaf pan. Alright. Well, yeah, smells delicious. So 27 minutes to, as an average, depending on your oven and your bread and everything else. There's the bread, so you can eat it. Nice to let it cool off maybe about an hour before you slice it. But when it's done and cool off, you can slice it and freeze it, or you can eat it still lukewarm, and that's also delicious. So this is the new method that I'm using with that olive oil that really makes a big difference, I think.